This is Campaign Check, and we're examining the claims and counterclaims made by politicians out on the election trail. And let's start with a number you've probably heard before. 20,000 new police officers. The Conservatives making this recruitment drive, 20,000 extra officers over 3 years, the centrepiece of their law and order offering at the election. They say it's an unprecedented boost, but is it really? Let's take a look at the numbers. And if you look back 40 years, you can see how police numbers in England and Wales rose and rose before falling dramatically in the austerity years after 2010, from about 140,000 down to around 120,000. So what are the Conservatives' plans? Well, we know the Home Office is now planning to have an extra 6 of that 20,000 total officers in place by 2020 to 21. That implies finding an extra 14,000 in a single year, 2022. That would be an enormous recruitment drive, raising some question marks about whether it's actually possible. Now, presuming they can pull it off, total police numbers would, you can see, be back to the level they were before austerity. Hurrah, right? Well, maybe, because remember, the population's grown over that period. So those officers are having to protect and serve an ever bigger number of people. So what happens if you divide them by the population? Well, this. Actually, even after you've added those 20,000 of them, the total number of officers per 100,000 people around England and Wales is still well below where it was for most of the 80s, the 90s and the early 2000s. How would that make us look compared with our European counterparts? Well, England and Wales, which still at the moment has one of the weakest police forces by this measure in Europe, might go up 1, maybe 2 countries in this leaderboard, but it'll still be quite near the bottom of the table. It's worth pointing out that both Scotland and Northern Ireland fare much better than that. But there's another question. Do these numbers actually make a difference?
The link between falling numbers of officers and the increase in crime is clear as night and day. We've seen an increase in knife crime. We have an epidemic across the whole country in knife crime. We've seen it very, very difficult for ordinary people to get police officers to register a crime. So if people are watching now, the chances are that some people who've had a crime will find it extremely difficult to get hold of a police officer, and then it's very, very difficult to get the police officer to investigate the crime.
The most recent figures from the Crime Survey for England and Wales show crime levels were fairly flat in recent years after a steady fall since the mid-90s. But there's a more mixed picture if you look at particular types of crime. So take knife crime, which in England has increased by 41% over the last 4 years. That's according to hospital admissions data. Still, the next time you see that 20,000 number, it's worth remembering that while it's certainly a big boost, in real population-adjusted terms, it doesn't even reverse many of the cuts made during the austerity period.